G'day guys and welcome to BST Weekly AFL edition episode 2. I'm Tim Blacker and this is Joey Kane. And Joey, last week our first episode proved to be very fruitful.
Yeah, look, we had close to, I think, 800 views, so that was really good to see. Completely surpassed what we expected from our first episode. So thanks to you guys out there, the viewers. And we had a bit of feedback as well, which is really good, which is what we wanted. So just on the 22, we had a lot of feedback, and guys who thought this should be changed and players should be in and players should be out. We love that type of feedback and keep sending it in. But just to reiterate on that, it's our best 22. It's what we think should be the team should put out on the field. So not necessarily what's going to run out there at round 1. So just to clarify on that one. But yeah, great work on episode 1, guys. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we can continue it on, and hopefully you like the show.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, just look, if you do want to contact us, so let's get it in early. We've got 3 different forms you can contact us in or make your opinion, whatever. We've got Twitter, of course, that being at BST Weekly. We've got email, which is bstweekly@gmail.com. And finally, we've got the Facebook page up and running now, which is just facebook.com/BST Weekly. So, Joey, we move on to the second week of
the preseason.
Yeah, the preseason previews.
That's right, and not too far away, as we know now. The NAB Cup only a few weeks away now. So last week we looked at a few teams. We looked at Adelaide, Brisbane, Essendon, and Collingwood. And we looked at their list and the changes and how we thought they fared last year and how we thought they'd fare this year and that type of thing. And this week we're going to continue on with 5 teams, which is not what we said we'd do. We've added one in just to make everything fit. This week we're going to look at GWS and see if we think they'll rise or how they'll fare in their second year. Second year blues, obviously, is a big issue, so we'll touch on that. We look at another one of the expansion teams, the Gold Coast Suns, which they're 1 year ahead of the GWS and looking to kick on this year. The Bulldogs, who had a bit of a rough run last year, and we'll touch on those guys. Geelong Cats, who, well, a lot to talk about there. We'll save that for a bit later. And the Fremantle Dockers and where they're going to fare this year as well. So I think we'll get straight into it.
Why not?
All right, let's have a look at the GWS Giants, who last year finished 18th on the ladder in the last spot, but that was to be expected, I think, in their first year. They finished with a record of 2 wins and 20 losses, which was, I actually think they'd be pretty happy to get 2 wins. Not that you expect going in not to win any games in a year, but, pretty happy to get those 2 wins. And, continuing on this year, how do you see them continuing on?
Oh, it's going to be very similar, I think, to Gold Coast second year. I think you'll see, they'll still lose, the vast majority of their games and that sort of thing. But that's not really what you care about at this stage. Obviously, it's just about the further development and, it's the development of your players. Being such a young list and everything, that's all you can ask for, really, and just continued support from guys like Chad Corns and Dean Brogan and those kind of guys as well. Yeah,
well, I'm sure that the GWS fans don't expect success straight away, and
well, I hope not.
Yeah, and hopefully that's not why you're following your club type of thing. But there's certainly, as you said, focused on building, I think, and in that respect, let's have a look at some of the ins and outs.
So, as you can see, they've made numerous picks inside the National Draft's top 30, but the one I think, Jonathan O'Rourke, is going to be a special one, but I think the one everyone's looking forward to seeing is Lockie Whitfield out of that group, and the one that's going to probably make, you would say, the most impact?
Oh, you'd think so. If there was no 17-year-old mini drafts, I think, given that that's taken place, he's a clear standout as number 1.
Yeah, well, look, expect big things from him. And just heading down towards the bottom, Sam Frost and Andrew Phillips got promoted onto the senior list, which was good to see. And Absolutely. Then they've been active in the pre-season as well, Joe.
Yeah, Brett Thornton from Carlton there, and obviously picked up Brogan again. Hopefully those guys can provide some experience and have a bit of an impact with their bigger bodies and help out the team in that way. Yeah, and obviously that list doesn't include some of the outs that they've had. They've lost Clifton, and obviously Holmeshire's gone to Port Adelaide, who's been traded there. But a couple of older, more experienced guys, McDonald and Powell, have hung up the boots.
Yeah, well, I think, they're both guys that came out of retirement anyway to come to start playing for the Giants last year. So look, I don't think anyone was really expecting a lot of seasons out of them, but they've done their job in that first year. They've given some of their knowledge onto the younger guys, and it's only going to be beneficial for Dylan Shield and all those kind of guys as well.
Hopefully they've instilled a bit of culture in the team, but I'm not sure their bodies probably would have been able to up to another pre-season. But that leads us on. Let's have a look at some of this, what the GWS Giants go through for pre-season. As we can see, I wonder what it's like playing AFL in GWS, which is traditionally a rugby heartland.
Well, it's one of the main challenges that they face to win over the public up there, isn't it? But look, AFL's Australia's game, really, at the end of the day. Right. And look, I think it's going to win over. You know, their crowds weren't exceptional last year, but
I think pretty good considering it's a new side.
Considering the new side and the area, yeah, it was okay. But I mean more in the sense that once they start winning games and everything, you'll see a lot more numbers come down, which will be great.
I actually like it. They're playing games at Monica as well. I think it's really good. And
add to the market.
Yeah. Canberra, I know firsthand, is screaming out for some AFL action. So that's really good. As we see here, a few unorthodox training methods again.
Oh, yeah. But as we touched on last week, I mean, variety is the key word in training for me, Joey, and just keeping the players' minds active. Not the same routine all the time is just what you want.
No, and I think, as you can see here, I think they went through a bit of an orienteering thing, which with so many young kids, it's really important, again, to build a really good culture and hopefully some teamsmanship and matesmanship.
Well, you know, all these guys are, you know, around the 20-year-old mark. So, you know, in terms of leadership and developing as a group, these guys are going to be together for, 10 years.
That's right, yeah.
So, I mean, it's a good early start, and look, as much bonding and everything that can happen is just perfect.
Toby Green, we see there in a few shots. How do you view his first season in the AFL?
Outstanding. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And there's been a bit of talk about him really wanting to avoid the second-year blues. And look, I think he will. I think he's just a professional as they come at that age, and look, he carries himself really well on the field, and he's a great pickup for the Giants.
He's got a bit of that spunk about him, doesn't he, that is sometimes hard to find. And when you do find it, you really want to nurture it and really, make that player a key part of your team.
Yeah, well, I think the main thing is confidence. And if you're confident in yourself, that's all that matters at the end of the day, isn't it?
That's right. A big future ahead for him, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, our 22, again, we'll reiterate, this is what we think their best 22 should be, but how about we have a look at that?
Well, yeah, I'd love to. Let's get it straight up.
So, BST's Weekly's best 22 from the GWS Giants. From the back line, Cornsey and Old Head, Gillum, who's come up from Hawthorn, and Tim Moore.
Just on Gillum now, I think the same as Brett Thornton, which we'll get to, they wouldn't have got him in unless they were going to play him. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree.
So that's why we've got him in there. Now there's the half-back line. Bug, Phil Davis, who was outstanding. We've got Reece Palmer there as well.
Well, obviously back from in the Fremantle days, Reece Palmer was, the next big thing, wasn't he, really? And if he can capture any of that form at the GWS Giants, I'm sure they'll be pretty happy with him. Absolutely. So, the centre line, Stephen Coniglio, Cal Ward, and Scully, they're out on the wing. Your thoughts on that?
Well, it's a good line, isn't it?
It is.
It's a really good line. Tom Scully, I'm sure, will improve. He's a good player, and he cops a lot of flack that's undeserved for mine. But look, watch him develop more this year as the team around him develops as well.
And Ward had such a great year last year. I just really want to say, the standout there for mine.
Well, everyone was a bit questioning that was their sort of star recruit, I suppose you'd say. But look, credit to the GWS there. He was always good at the Bulldogs, but I mean, he's taken it to a new level.
Absolutely, and we move on. Dom Tyson, Jeremy Cameron, and Treloar in the half-forward flank line. Yeah, this is the main one there. Jeremy Cameron was fantastic last year and really performed well above his years as well. Absolutely. Smith, Patton, and Hoskin-Elliott in the forward line.
Yeah, just a bit of speed down there with Smith and Hoskin-Elliott, but big Patton for mine is just one to really get excited about.
Absolutely. Giles had a great year as well. Toby Green and Shield in the midfield there. And we look at the interchange. Lockie Whitfield, who they've just picked up. What are your thoughts there?
Well, obviously being the number one pick, I mean, expectations are going to be quite high, aren't they? But, you know, from what they said, he was the absolute pick of the bunch. So, look, expect him to come in and have a really good impact for them. Not dominate, but really good in patches for me. And then towards the end of the year, he'll become a bit more consistent.
Yeah. And Thornton, I think, from Carlton, another, as we touched on earlier, experienced body who can have an impact.
Bunting, at both ends.
At both ends, well, where required, really.
Yeah.
Bunting and Tomlinson as well on the bench there, and the emergencies. Oh, sorry, Tomlinson the sub, obviously, but the emergencies: Hampton, Townsend, and Kennedy.
Yeah, well, you could add anyone really into that emergency column, couldn't you? Because they've just got so many guys around the 20-year-old mark. So, I mean, people will stand out a bit more into this pre-season and might even forge themselves in there as well. But plenty to choose from, which is just a delight for GWS fans.
And as we said, they'll be looking towards the future. But how many wins do you think they can get this year? Obviously 2 last season.
Yeah, the 2 last year. Look, it is tough to know at this stage of the year, but I think their aim, would you say 5? 5? Would that be reasonable?
Wow.
Like as an aim?
I mean, they should aim to win 22.
Oh, well, obviously, but realistically, deep down.
Look, I have them as probably winning, again, similar to Gold Coast last year, but around 2 or 3 again.
Well, yeah, I've got them 3 or 4.
Yeah. So, yeah. Look,
as long as they improve.
I think,
last year.
But it sounds petty in that, but I think just being competitive, they'll be really, really happy with to be competitive in every game they play. They go out there. Some of the really good sides, your Collingwood or Hawthorns and that sort of thing, and if they can, win a few quarters against the big boys like that, as they did at times last year, but if they can continue to get the consistency, get the competitiveness up, I think they'll be pretty happy with that, don't you?
Yeah, well, you are right. At the end of the day, as we said at the start, it's all about development again. No one's expecting massive things, but look, as long as their guys are putting themselves in the frame of things to improve, then that's all you can ask for, because they're real targets, still 3-4 years away.
That's right. Now, the kids they've brought in, their initial drafting strategy, it's different a bit, don't you think? How do you see it so far?
Well, they obviously went a different approach to the Gold Coast, didn't they? They opted not to bring in Palmer's the exception, obviously, and Scully, but more to a sense they focused a lot on their young kids, so 18, 19, and then they've looked at the older guys like McDonald, Brogan, Power as well as their mentors from above. So maybe they're happy to wait a bit longer for success than the Gold Coast might have been thinking in their mind. What do you think?
Oh, to an extent, I'm not 100% with you on that, but I see what you're saying. I think you're definitely right, though. They really don't have too many middle-aged guys, which you wouldn't have with at least starting up. But you're right. They certainly didn't target like an Ablett or that type of thing. They didn't get too many middle-aged guys, as you said.
Callan Ward as well. So
well, obviously, yeah, Cal Ward. But top and bottom in terms of list age, definitely, I agree with you on that. But speaking of
in terms of key position as well. That they've opened it up for young guys as well. Like Phil Davis is really young for a centre half, sort of thing. Whereas Gold Coast went for a Bock option. So there's two different strategies, and I mean they're giving young kids like Cameron and Patton. Obviously, it's all theirs,
Yeah, and certainly Patton looks the goods for mine, but Cameron in particular has really stood out and taken the bull by the horns and really looks to be that 10-year key position player for them that they would have hoped to draft initially, don't you think?
Yeah, well, exactly. And I mean, just back to their recruiting ways, the guys who had experience that they've brought in have still got, the majority, like Phil Davis and the like, have still got, another improvement and another 6-7 years in the league. Healthy. Healthy bodies, So it's I didn't mind it. I like the way they went about it, and look, I think GWS fans will be happy again this year.
On the right track, yes,
definitely.
All right. Well, let's move on now to their expansion team counterpart, the Gold Coast Suns.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting year last year. Obviously, they had that really tough start to the year, but they won a few games towards the end. They finished 17th, second last. They did lose one early in the year to GWS, but they got them back later on. Finished with a record of 3 wins and 19 losses. How do you see them shaping up for this year?
Well, we'll get to their 22 shortly, but I'm really liking the look of it. They've got all areas and starting to get all areas covered now, which is a really good sign for them. But look, on last year, I mean, yeah, they only got 3 wins, but in a lot of games, they were unlucky not to pinch a lot of wins. I mean, the one that pops to mind is Essendon. I think it was earlier in the year, up in the Gold Coast, wet night, I think it was from memory as well. So, I mean, this little things, you know, they could have had 5 wins, 4 or 5 wins at the end of the day. So, but again, it was just a development year for mine, Joey. And look, I think they'd be happy.
Yeah, there was a few games, as you just mentioned, against Geelong and that type of thing, where they won the first half, 3 quarters, that type of thing. And as we just spoke about with GWS, they actually did have periods of consistency there where they did win a quarter or 2, but just couldn't put the 4 together.
Yeah.
So
they're young. They're young.
They are,
and that's going to happen.
They've had a bit of changes with their list. Let's have a look at that. Here's the list, but Jesse Lonergan, one to watch out for, I think. Yeah, and they were active. Obviously, they traded their number 2 pick for Jack Martin, who was the number 1 promising 17-year-old. They traded that to trade into the 17-year-old mini draft with GWS. So Jack Martin, which is what they did, obviously, the year earlier with J Group. Bit of conjecture over that name. Some people say Jaeger, some people say Jaeger. I think Jaeger pronounces it Jaeger, but I like saying Jaeger.
Okay.
So I guess it's...
Well, we'll go with Jaeger.
Jaeger.
Yeah.
Jaeger. Anyway, enough of that. Obviously, so, they've been pretty active, you'd say.
Yeah, well, on top of Jack Martin, I mean, they're also brought in a couple of experienced guys through trades as well. Yeah,
from Hawthorn, Tom Murphy, who just missed out on a grand final spot. So
second time.
Really dreadfully unlucky for him. But I'm sure I know he comes with his leadership. Was something that they really looked up to in Hawthorn, and he can provide that at the Suns.
Well, I like it, yeah. I really like the move. He's a good, middle-aged, I'll say, in the sense that he's in the middle of his career, and he's got plenty to offer. I mean, he got forced out at Hawthorn a little bit, which was a shame for him.
Yeah, just missed.
Yeah. Well, what I mean is things didn't align for him.
Yeah.
This at Hawthorn at the... Well, obviously the most business end of the season you can get. And look, I mean, he'll look forward to going up to the Gold Coast and being a staple. And another one, Greg Broughton from Fremantle. Personally, a really good move for mine. Yeah, absolutely love it. He felt, I don't know what happened there at Fremantle. His form dropped off last year. And I don't know, a bit of word going around that, I don't know, Ross Lyon just... Well, Greg Broughton just didn't work for Ross Lyon in the way he wanted to play, sort of thing. Yeah, I don't know why. He's so tough, and I think he wants to play in his preferred role in the back line. But as we know, he can play in the midfield as well. So probably really good to have a versatile, tough-at-it older guy like that as well. Oh, yeah, again, I absolutely love it. And partner him with Jared Harbrow down in defence as well. And they're your 2 guys to cover the smaller pocket players for opposition sides. Which is... Gold Coast has had some trouble with small forwards in the past, but a few other outs to touch on. Obviously, Caddy went back home to Geelong, to Melbourne, and Geelong was the one who picked him up. What do you think about that move? Well, it was always on the cards, wasn't it? It was lucky not to happen the season before because Essendon.
That's right.
Was really, really interested in him, but. Look, unfortunately, it's the way it goes. Young player moves away from home. Well, a bunch moves away from home, and you're going to get some that want to go back home.
I think obviously he had a sick father, and that was led to a bit of him wanting to go home. I'm not sure about the situation there. I hope he's better, but yeah, obviously I think Katie's pretty happy, and Geelong will be happy to get him. The Suns tough to lose.
Yeah,
but,
it's still a tough loss for the Suns.
Well, he's a great player, so
yeah, exactly.
It is. And another one though, Tom Hickey has gone and followed his girlfriend. The talk is he's followed his girlfriend down. She's got a gig on Neighbours. That's the talk around, and he's followed her down to Melbourne, and he's got a gig at St Kilda now.
Yeah, well, I mean, good luck to him, I suppose. He's only a young boy, so I mean, if he gets married to this woman, good luck to him. But I mean, if it was the right move for him, I suppose we'll see. But
I don't think it was.
Yeah,
but,
I think he had a really good future at the Gold Coast.
So do I.
And look, I'm not one to start commenting on his personal life or anything because
leave that to me, and I'm sure that's the case. So,
well, you want it.
No, I'm just saying. I think that's 100% correct about his girlfriend. But
oh no, I'm saying I mean more of the sense if it was the right decision to move down with his girlfriend.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. I mean, or each to their own.
Exactly. We'll leave it at that. We're not a love show.
No. Well, sometimes. Fraser has retired as well.
Yeah, well, we touched on it last week when we were talking about the Pies Ruck situation. Actually, Josh Fraser for years there was the single man at Collingwood, and he just got battered and bruised every week. And as his career went on, obviously his performances deteriorated at Collingwood, along with Jolly's inclusion. And then he's gone up to the Gold Coast, and he's had more injury problems there. I think I'm right in saying.
I mean,
and form,
as you said,
injuries and form. So I mean, he just got to the end of the road, really.
Yeah, I love Josh Fraser. I really do, and the great man from Mansfield. It's a shame to see him go, but it happens. And the end of the road for Josh. I hope he enjoyed his time with Gold Coast, which he said he did. So
yeah.
A few delisting guys. One of note, mostly Isles. Tough to be delisted there. Pretty stiff, I think.
Yeah.
But another few names: Jolly, Toy, Megan, Moss, Flanagan as well. So Toy obviously has the heart problems, and
shame, big shame.
Yeah,
really big shame. And Sam Isles as well, who was fantastic in Gold Coast's first inaugural year in the league. So look, it's a shame for him because I thought he was a pretty good player. But I mean, they've got in more quality this year, so someone's got to be squeezed out.
That's right. Speaking of quality, let's have a look at the boys have a run around the track and showing off their skills.
Yeah, well, they've got a lot of guys in this team, Joey, that have polished skills and just are squeaky clean in this the way they go about things. And Harley Burnell's this one that really improved last year, but we'll talk about him a bit later. But look, training up in the humidity up there, it's beneficial? Or?
Oh, absolutely. You can't underestimate how important that is. And I know the guys go away for a few trips to Townsville and that type of thing as well, just to reap the full benefits of training in, really humid heat type of thing. But Carmichael Hunt, as we see here, dropped a few more kilos and looks to be going to be used as a tag this year.
Great story. I just love it how so many people wrote him off when he came over, and last year he was fantastic. And look, if I'm being honest, I'm not bragging. I never wrote him off. I thought he was always going to be a good player. That mid-size player, completely different to Izzy, but that's for a different time. But look, he'll continue to get better for sure.
I know he's still learning to read the game to an extent, but look, he's just a real gutsy type of character that it really adds to a team. There's Campbell Brown there we see as well. Gutsy, yes. He's out for the first 6 weeks of the season. A bit over the top.
In terms of...
was his actions over the top, or was the...
Oh, yeah, but I mean, that's what you're going to get with Campbell. But I mean, to be honest, I think it's perfect for him. He's not old, but he's not young anymore. So, I mean, what he puts his body through as well, I think it will actually be beneficial for him to be able to sit out the first couple and just make sure he's raring to go.
He'll be cherry ripe come finals time if they're about the mark. But we continue to look at them here. Guy McKenna, what are your views on him as a coach?
Yeah, love him. Obviously did the understudy under Mick Moldhouse at Collingwood, and you can't get many more better preparations for a senior role than that, to be honest.
Well, they've got Malcolm Blight there helping out as well. He's moved down and he's helping out full time at the Suns, and also they've brought in from Port Adelaide Matthew Primus. So their coaching staff there is looking pretty solid now, and a few good leaders in those three guys to teach these young boys the culture and the way to play the game.
Well, they're all guys, Blighty and Primus that have coached at the senior level, and I mean, just the experience of that is going to be so. Well, it's just going to be fantastic for them to pass on their knowledge to all the young guys that Gold Coast have on their list.
It'll help out so much, I think, and I really think they're developing quite nicely.
So yeah, I think for me personally, I'm really looking forward to watching them this year. Of course, they've had, this is the third pre-season now that they've had, and they're just going to blossom for me.
It's really tell on some of the boys' bodies. Sam Day in particular is just beast mode at the minute. He just looks ripped and raring to go, so you can notice.
Yeah, the key position players, so many people out there are still far too critical on and impatient in waiting for these guys to get ready. And I mean, they're not all going to come into the league like a Jonathan Patton, who we spoke about before, who are obviously, physically, as you can see, ready to go. They're built like men, whereas a lot of the key positions come in,
needing some further development.
Yeah, exactly.
The only real exception at the Suns is Charlie Dixon, who throws his body around quite amazingly, really. But look. As you said, further development, and maybe a bit too harsh, but those big guys, can they all fit in? I think they can. Let's have a look at their 22. So from the back line, as you said earlier, Murphy, Warnock, who had an underrated, really good year last year, and Harbrow.
Well, Warnock's the one there. We haven't spoken about him yet. At Melbourne as well. I think he's a fantastic defender. It's just at the two clubs he's been at, Melbourne was struggling.
Yep.
So he's been slaughtered there.
Yeah.
Put out to whatever, I can't think of a word, but he's been terminated there. And then he's come to Gold Coast and they're still developing and stuff. So a lot of balls coming down.
That's it.
It's so hard to defend one-on-one these days as well with, free kicks. It's being so easy to give away.
Oh, exactly.
So we move on to the half-back line. Greg Broughton, as we said, fantastic pickup. Nathan Bock, it's going to be fantastic for them to have him back this year, and Riscatelli as well.
Yeah, Bock, just on Bock, obviously the horrific injury last year, and he's back running now, so he'll be right to go, hopefully, for round one for them. And, good to have him back, good to have experience rocking the back line with Warnock as well. Mm-hmm. But the midfield, the middle line there, Harley Bennell, Carmichael Hunt, and Mackenzie as well on the wing.
Yeah, big super boot. What a luxury that is for him to be on a wing and can put it, to about 25 metres out in front of the sticks.
Well, the only criticism of him is he's probably tried to overkick at times. He's tried to, boot the cover off the ball too much. I think he needs to,
He can lower the eyes a bit.
Yeah, exactly.
I will agree with that. But if he just sorts that part of his game out and not become so predictable,
yes,
that long ball is going to be even more of a weapon.
For sure. Danny Stanley, the Bull himself, had a great year as well last year. And Tom Lynch, who's coming into his own, and Jared Brennan as well.
Well, I know you've got a few opinions on Jared Brennan, Joey, but personally, I think if he comes right for the Gold Coast, it's going to be a pleasure to watch them and him play. Your thoughts?
No, I agree totally. Fish Matera, Sam Day, we touched on earlier, and Stephen May as well in the forward pocket, who had a breakout game against Hawthorn last year in the forward line.
Yep. Matera's the one for me, though. I reckon he's an absolute dynamo down there. He's fantastic for them. Big Smith in the ruck, and Ablett and Swallow at his feet. Well, say no more. Quality everywhere there.
Oh, great midfield, and hopefully Smith can take that aggression one step further, as he's been talking about in the preseason. Horsley, Dixon, who we touched on earlier, and Prestia on the bench. And Jaeger O'Meara as the sub.
Yeah, well, a lot's expected of this young lad, and look, I think he'll come through with the goods and show us why he gets talked about so much.
Rising star chance for sure. And Daniel Gorringe, Maverick Weller, and Aaron Hall to round out the emergencies. So just in their midfield in particular, a few young guys, obviously, Swallow, Ablett, not so young, but elite, probably the best midfielder in the comp, or one of. Jago O'Meara, Dion Prestia, guys like this. You got Riscatelli and Bennell who you can throw in there as well. Obviously, Bull Stanley could have a run in there. Cole Horsley and that. Their midfield solidified, and their young guys potentially the best midfield in 2 or 3 years' time.
Spoiled for choice. I think that's the only word or phrase that could sum it up correctly. They bat very deep, and as you said, in a few years, look out. Yeah, when these guys are fully developed, good luck.
But in their first season, the Suns midfield were known for their clearances, and that was their strength. They fell away from that a bit last season. Do you think that was second-year blues, or...?
Oh, a little bit. It's got a little bit to do with opposition teams knowing a bit more about them and being able to go over footage, obviously, of them and stop it that way. But look, as we said, they're all great players there, and I'm sure, I've got no doubt that stat tally will pick up for them again this year.
And just, you touched on Jared Brennan earlier. Jared obviously openly admits that he was a bit disenfranchised with footy last year, thought about giving it away, and then seemed to come to the realisation that he enjoyed playing footy for his teammates. He enjoyed the camaraderie and that sort of thing, and the mateship. And he's had his best pre-season to date. So, PBs and this type of thing, if he can get a few of those and get his body and mind in a really good place, he can be really, really damaging, I think, for the Suns.
Well, yeah, as I said before, it'll be an absolute joy for them and for the footy public if he can get back to anywhere near his best from what he showed at Brisbane. But look, he's that sort of player that this brings an X factor. But I think the Suns want more consistency rather than that X factor, because there's no doubt he can have both. He is the sort of player that could have both and be so damaging for them. That's
right. Do you think he can contribute to maybe a few more wins this year? Like, how many wins for the Gold Coast do you see this year?
Well, they had 3 last year.
Yep.
Correct? Yep, 3 last year. Look, given their list that we just went over, and now that they've had 3 pre-seasons, I honestly expect 7 or 8. Yeah, that's what I expect. I'm not a Gold Coast fan, but that's what I expect.
Well, they've got a really good end to the year when they play a few teams that could have, really bottomed out and are just playing kids for development, real raw kids for development in the Bulldogs and St.Kilda and Port Adelaide to round out the year. So if they can be 6 and 8 wins by mid-season, and then they might even end up getting up to 10 wins as probably the cap, but there's a potential for that to happen if they get everything working right.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not just all about wins as well. This year is the year they're really going to be looking for a consistent... I'm not saying they're going to win, but I'm saying a consistent 4-quarter effort against the guys like West Coast, Hawthorn, Collingwood, Sydney, those bigger guys. So, that's where they're going to be looking for more improvement as well.
Absolutely. For a team that looks to be on the way up to potentially a team that could be, heading on the way down in the Western Bulldogs, finished 15th last season. Obviously, before that, they reached a couple of prelims and lost to Geelong and that type of thing. They've been up for a while.
What's the cycle?
Yeah,
it's the cycle that gets teams. Not so much not to the extremes as it used to be, because of teams now adopting different recruiting strategies in terms of middle-aged players and that for me. But look, unfortunately, they're a long way away from another window.
They are. They won 5 games last year, lost 17. They are a long way away from another window, but are they heading in the right direction? Brendan McCartney, the man for the job?
Well, Brendan McCartney's a great coach.
Yep.
Yeah, so don't get me wrong there, don't get us wrong. We love his appointment last year. We think he's the man for the job, but no matter who's in charge, you've still got to have the cattle on the park, so to speak. And I don't know about you, but I'm just a bit worried about their list.
So am I. Not so much as we said. You said McCartney. It is their list. I think could be potentially the problem. But
well, just before you go, the problem was, I think, and I'm not blaming Rocket Eade or anyone like that, but when they were in that window, they didn't blood anyone.
No.
Really, yeah. When they made those prelims, of course they got in older heads, Barry Hall, who was great for them, and Acker, of course, we all know what happened there, but they didn't focus enough on the bottom echelon of their list for mine, and now that it's coming to the fruitation, so to speak, and the top half is gone, this is why we see a problem.
Couldn't agree more. Let's have a look at some of the ins and outs. Yeah, Tom Campbell, a promoted rookie. Lockie Hunter, father-son selection there. Jason Johannesson, one of my personal favourites, another promoted rookie. Kobe Stevens is traded in from West Coast, and Tom Young from Collingwood.
Yeah, it's just the outs, though, that worry me a bit. As you can see, Hargrave, Gilby retired, along with Jakura, and Brian Lake also there traded to Hawthorn. The experience they've lost there is just incredible.
Well, I mean, Brian Lake wasn't particularly working out. There's a few issues there, but yeah, a lot of experience lost, and as you said, the cycle's certainly ticking over, as you can see.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, they've just delisted a few younger guys like Hooper, Panos and Mulligan as well, just to clear out a few spots. But look, as we said, the list is in a vulnerable position.
As we move on here, to watch a bit of the pre-season training down at Whitten Oval. A few guys as well that isn't on there, but are pretty big ins in the draft. Stringer, Goods and McRae. Your thoughts on those guys?
Well, Stringer and McRae are their first two picks in the draft, and I know they're especially pumped, I suppose you could say, as to watch the development of Jake Stringer. I think, personally, he'll be a really good pickup for them. And then in the rookie draft, they picked up Brett Goods. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, which is...
Who's been training the house down from all reports.
Oh, well, I mean, personally, I don't know too much about him, but look, I think he's played well at BFL, and he could be really good for them. Yeah,
obviously the Dogs having to rejuvenate somewhere, and you touched on some of the older heads going. What do you think are their main issues they need to sort out in terms of positions on the ground? Where do you think their real weaknesses are?
Well, for mine, it's definitely full forward sort of area, and the posts at centre half forward as well. Liam Jones, he gets the opportunity, I suppose you'll say, but is he really deserving of it?
Well, he's deserving of it, but will he take it with both hands, I think?
Well, he's deserving of it because I don't personally think they've got any other options.
Oh, well, yeah, right. I agree. Ace Cordy, what are your thoughts there?
Young, I mean, yeah, he carries the name with him, so I mean, he could be anything, but it's just all about his body holding up as well, which it comes down to with a lot of young guys.
Yeah, that's right. A few older guys as well. They still have a couple of older guys that are still there, but probably not producing to the output that they once did. Obviously, Jan Syracuse had a decent year last year, but a guy like Cooney, where do you see his future now?
Well, for mine, if they want any length of game time out of him, I think they've got to, with his knee issues, I think they've got to stop playing him in the midfield. That's just my opinion. Get him up forward, because for mine, he could be a dangerous flanker or deep forward pocket sort of type.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. We see Tom Young there. Do you think he'll have much of an impact this year?
Well, he was fantastic at Collingwood's VFL level. He played a few senior games. Couldn't quite crack it. It's obviously a very hard side to get into. But look, given he's gone down to the Bulldogs, I think he'll make a far better run at it.
I hope so for his sake and the Bulldogs' sake. Hopefully he can be one of those younger guys who steps up and can contribute in a real meaningful way in the coming season.
Yeah, we'll flick straight over to their best 22, our best 22, of course, Joey. We've got Wood, Roughhead and Markovic there. Now, Roughhead's the one, obviously he's been groomed as a fullback now that Brian Lake's gone.
That's right, yeah. And needs to come on because... they're
very light.
Yeah, that's right. And obviously Morris is there, but we've got him into our centre-half back position. Liam Picken, I think, is one to watch out for. Real hard at it and quite a player.
Oh, you love Liam Picken. This is the way he goes about it. He's an absolute pest when he's marking someone as well. And look, he's one of their better players as well. But Nick Lower there, of course, he's come over from Freo. Your thoughts on him?
Oh, I think he can have an impact. I think he can really contribute to this team, and he wouldn't come over if they didn't see him, having some type of impact there.
Yeah, well, he dropped off a bit last year, but his season in 2011 was really impressive, and he was really good for Fremantle. So hopefully he can get back to that at the Dogs.
It certainly was, and we move into the centre line there: Liberatore, Boyd, and Kobe Stevens.
Well, Liberatore is going to be a great player, and Matty Boyd, what a champion.
Absolute champion.
Yeah, he says, I swear when he runs out with the Dogs, he says, "Come on, boys, jump on me back. I'll carry this one."
A few players have said that today.
Well, no, look, he's great for them. But Kobe Stevens there, come over from West Coast.
Yeah, that's right. Obviously, Kobe, I think he's the type of guy that they really need. A tad experience, but he couldn't quite break through at the Eagles, and he'll come over to the Dogs and try and show his wares. Luke Dalhouse is the one for mine.
It was fantastic.
Absolute shining light, a real up-and-coming player, and I think the Dogs need him to take the next step, though.
Yeah, I'm confident he will. Yeah, I'm one player of theirs I've really got a lot of confidence in.
He can become elite, in my mind.
Yeah.
Jones, we touched on a minute ago. Higgins, where do you see him?
Oh, he's just got to be able to get on the park. He's a good player, but he's not getting on the park enough down to injuries.
Another one, Cooney, is in the same sort of boat. Gia, obviously a stalwart there, and Cordy we touched on. Will Minson, a really, really good ruckman and probably one of their best players.
Was fantastic last year, went to a new level as well. Look, he really stamped his authority on it. Ryan Griffin there as well, what a polished player. And Mitch Wallace rounding out the last of their on-baller spot there, which I think is, well, obviously, as you can see, their strongest part of the ground.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly there. And they got other guys, Liberatore can run through there, and so can Stevens, I think, as well. So, yeah. The bench there, Daniel Cross, Dixon, and Smith. What do you think about?
Yeah, Tory Dixon, or Daniel Cross is a champ, but Tory Dixon was fantastic last year. Jared Grant is the sub, and then as the emergencies there, Joey.
Yep, we have Stringer, McRae, and Brett Goods, who will get a chance, I think, at senior level this year. Yeah, so...
Oh. Just...
I got it.
Go. Right. No. Yes.
Yeah, so as we see, they're 22. Strong in certain areas, such as the midfield, but a little bit underdone, a little bit weak in other areas. I think the spine is a bit of an issue for mine. Look, without trying to alienate all our Western Bulldogs followers out there, I think it's going to be a really, really tough year this year for them.
Yeah. Unfortunately, look, Bulldogs fans, if you're watching, please don't jump off, because I'm sure during the year it won't be a full bash session on you guys. But I'm very much with you. I think they're going to really struggle this year, to be honest.
In fact, I'd go so far as to say they'll probably finish bottom of the ladder.
Yeah, well, I've got them for either 17th or 18th as well.
But that's not such a bad thing in terms of the cycle. It does go around. They were up for a long time, so...
Yeah, the cycle happens, and unfortunately they're stuck in it at the minute.
That's right. And from the Bulldogs, we move on to their nemesis of the preliminary finals of yesteryear, well, a few years ago. Geelong, the Geelong Cats. They finished 6th last year, and they finished with a record of 15-7. They lost the elimination final to Freo by 16 points. Every year it seems to be that we write the Cats off and they continue to prove us wrong. But last year, certainly wasn't their best year. Well,
finally last year, I say finally because of what you just said in terms of them dropping off. Finally we saw some signs that they were that someone found chinks in their armour, because for all the years before that, they have just been incredible. But look, they're beatable now, which is the rest of the AFL is rejoicing. But look, they're still very competitive.
I think they've recruited exceptionally well.
Yeah.
Exceptionally well.
Yeah.
And I think they're going to be better than last year. I know that they've lost a few guys and they're aging. So a few of the players are getting on in years. But I got high hopes for Geelong this year.
I probably haven't got as high hopes for you, but look, on the flip side,
for me, you haven't got as high hopes. That's a bit rude.
Sorry, of your opinion.
That's all right.
Geelong,
That's all right, mate.
But look, saying that, they are still. If you do not come 100% switched on, they will beat you.
They'll eat you alive.
Yeah, simple as that. They've got too many winners in their team to not be competitive.
Coached by, of course, the Scot, Chris. Has Bomber Thompson left a coaching legacy, or do you think it's a completely different regime under Chris Scott?
Look, I think coaches. Mark Thompson's era there, I suppose you'd say, is always going to be there. But I mean, from day one, for me personally, there's no doubt that Brad Scott's come in. Chris Scott.
Yeah.
Gee, just as confused as trying to watch them play for Brisbane. But no, Chris Scott, look, there's no doubt he's come in first day and his stamp is on it now. It's his team for mine. You might not agree, but look, I think it's all about Chris's way.
No, I agree. Just on the Scott brothers, as a bit of a tangent, do you reckon that Chris looks to be the meaner brother? For mine, Brad sort of looks like a nice, affable sort of guy, and Chris has a bit of a scowl about him,
Well, yeah. Well, I've seen both of them give a fairly good roast in the box, but Brad seems mellow.
He does, doesn't he? He seems a bit more... Yeah.
He does, but I think if you were going to play a prank on one of them, you'd play it on Brad, because he'd take it better. But Chris...
10 times out of 10.
Yeah. Chris can lose his cool, but that's not a bad thing.
No, of course not. But let's have a look at some of the ins and outs from the Geelong list.
Yeah, so on the ins, Josh Caddy, who we talked about before.
Great get.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, when he's going to be great for them. Hamish McIntosh is the big one for me. I think he's the best of the recruits by a mile.
And it really feels a need that they needed to fill. And like perfect recruiting on the outer at North with Goldstein there. So, yeah, great pickup.
Rivers as well is great.
Well, fills another hole with Scarlett with the third tall. So, yeah.
Just smart recruiting.
Yep.
Jesse Stringer there promoted, and Jackson Thurlow with their first pick.
Yeah, pick 16. He could be something as well.
Yeah, definitely. Just on the outs. Now, Shannon Burns goes to Melbourne. Tom Gillies and Oren Stevenson were delisted.
Yep. And Wojcinski and, of course, just then Scarlett retired. Where do you rate Scarlett? One of the all-time greats?
Yeah, it goes without saying. Yeah, he was an absolute superstar of the game, and not a lot needs to be said about it because, everyone knows he was a champ. But, look, towards the end of his career, he did get into a stage where he took probably the third defender. Some would say the easy road, but it just fit for them, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't need to take the number one defender. Obviously, they got other guys who can do a job in Lonergan and Taylor and that type of thing, and probably they even may have surpassed him to an extent towards the end there. So, yeah, natural progression and living legend down at Geelong, I think.
Yeah. Oh well, he's obviously moved to the Bulldogs now as one of their coaches, so his knowledge and know-how is going to be great for them.
Hopefully he can build up a rapport with some of the Dogs players because I'm not too sure of his personality. But
look, everybody's different, which is why we love to live life, I suppose you'd say. But
let's just say you have both ends of the spectrum covered in Geelong.
Yes. Yeah.
And Scarlett was at one end.
Yeah. He was very much to himself. I don't think he would have been much of the personality when he finished training and everything.
I worry for him as a coach at the Dogs.
Yeah, well,
I do.
I remember an interview on the Footy Show actually, and he just didn't seem to have. I don't know if the word's people skills or he seems Or maybe he's just a bit socially awkward or something. I don't know.
Well,
but
yeah. From all reports, he's not the most sociable person. Easy to get along with. As you said.
Yeah.
But look, we'll move on a bit, I think, and have a look at where his loss impacts their best 22.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's going to be a problem at all, to be honest. As you can see by our best 22 here, they've recruited so well. Jared Rivers has slipped straight into Scarlett's position.
The ideal replacement, and you couldn't have drawn it up any better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Lonergan continued to impress last year, and Josh Hunt rounds out a very strong full back line.
Oh, and the half-back line. Mackey, Taylor and Enright, all class.
All class. I mean, Harry Taylor speaks for himself, the ultimate professional. You've heard about him. You hear about him all year on game day and that sort of thing of how much study he puts into opposition forwards and all that sort of stuff. So he's just fantastic. And Corey Enright's been round the All-Australian setup for years. So.
For years now, that's right. And the centre line, Varco, Bartel and Duncan. Varco, back from injury, can have a real impact.
Yeah, really played well until he got injured and was continuing to develop and become a really good, consistent player. So he'll just slip straight back in beautifully. Jimmy Bartel as well, one who I suppose you could say doesn't seem to have the biggest impact, but you know he's always going to be there when it counts.
Oh, that's it. When the whips are cracking, Jimmy Bartel will be there. So I think he'll continue on with his into the later stage of his career to be that real impact sort of player. Moving on, Caddy, Podsiadly and Johnson across the half-forward line. Johnson and Podsiadly have been there and done that before. Caddy fits in perfectly. He's a goal-kicking sort of a midfielder, Caddy, so he can have a real impact in their structure there. He fits in nicely.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, as you said, Stevie J is just a champ. He'll get it done for you consistently as well. To the full forward line now. Chappie, everyone loves Chappie. He's been great for years. Big Tomahawk was fantastic last year. Finally put his stamp on it and said, I am the full forward for this team.
Just a big brute, and I love to watch him establish himself as a real premier full forward in the league. But just back to Chapman, I think he recorded his PB in a 2K time trial just recently. So if he gets his body in that type of nick, he'll be unstoppable.
Oh, well, he can still play. There's absolutely no doubt about that. He's a class act. We'll just jump to the followers now. McIntosh, as we said, perfect recruit, filled a need. He'll slip straight in, and Selwood and Kelly round out a classy centre line.
What a midfield there. And on the bench, we've got Guthrie, Taylor Hunt and Christensen. Christensen, as you always say, gives you something.
Oh, he just gives you something, exactly. He'll always give you energy, the same as Matty Stokes when he comes on as our sub. And finally there in the emergencies, Joe.
Vardy, Weston, Motlop. Vardy pretty unlucky, but I think he'll play a few games this year.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've got really high hopes for him down there, and they are really confident he's going to develop into a great player.
And I think he will, given time and opportunity. But we look at their list, and it resembles, pretty similar to the premiership years, minus and plus a few. But do you think they're still a premiership threat?
It's such a tough one, isn't it? I would have loved to see how they went in Adelaide had they beat Fremantle in that elimination final, which they probably should have, let's be honest. That was just it was a bad first half, wasn't it? In the second half, they were all over the Dockers and, unlucky in the end not to scrape
16 points, so, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a bad way to end, but I mean, you just can't rule them out until the first year that they miss finals for mine. As soon as they miss finals, you can just count them out.
Yeah, I agree. I think...
as a premiership threat.
As a premiership threat.
From then on, yeah.
Yeah. I think that they've recruited so well. Like, obviously, the age and, they lost, as we mentioned, a few guys, but... and age, the ageing on some of the older players, but that decline has been counterbalanced almost, I think, by such great recruiting in those positions to fill needs. In your Rivers, your McIntosh and your Caddy. 3 real great gets. And, I think that's going to hold them in good enough stead to finish... I'll probably have them anywhere between 4 and 7, 8. I think the bottom half of the 8 is where they'll finish, and from there, if they push them to the top 4, I'd back them in 100%. I don't think they will do that. Obviously, it comes down to who they play in their second game, if they have to travel interstate and that type of thing. But, are they premiership threat? As much as last year, I think.
As much as last year, yeah. Look, if we had to be categorical and say out and out, I'm going to say no. They can't win the flag. But, I mean, people have said outlandish statements before and made fools of. So, I'm not writing them off, but I don't think they won't win for mine.
Yeah, well...
But I've got them... Yeah, I mean, I haven't totally decided on my final prediction of the ladder yet, but I've got them sort of 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there.
Bottom half of the 8, for sure.
But I mean, geez, you really wouldn't want to play them in an elimination final.
You wouldn't want to play them down at Carnegie Park.
Well, they're going to win their games there.
Exactly.
They're still going to get games there against the Port Adelaides and those kinds of teams. So chalk that, well, more than chalk. Permanent marker that in as a W.
I think there is talk of some of the bigger teams going out there to play, but yeah, this season, obviously, they, as you said, chalk them in as the W of the games at Carnegie Park. But we're twinging and throwing a bit here, but if you think they're in decline, which I think we all...
it's a slow decline.
Yeah.
Though, yeah.
The natural cycle, but just in a slow sort of way. I don't think they'll bottom out or anything, but do you think they need to blood some more youngsters?
Well, I think they actually did it quite well last year, where they did give a lot of young guys games, and they still managed to win games as well. So, look, I think they're going about it the right way. They're doing, for mine, we spoke about it during the Western Bulldogs, they're doing exactly what the Western Bulldogs should have done.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas they bring in younger guys while they're still, competing or still consider themselves a chance. So they're just, as you said, just making sure they don't completely bottom out, which they definitely won't.
Oh, it's not in their nature to, is it? It's the last thing they'd want to do. So, yeah, I don't think they will.
No, there'll be, as we've said, look, if you're a Geelong fan, I think there's still plenty of excitement this year, and you'll see your team play a lot of good footy.
So do I.
Yeah.
And a team that they lost to in the elimination final. Fremantle.
Perfect segue.
What a lovely segue. But Freo, 7th last year, finished with a record of 14 and 8. Obviously, they beat Geelong, but then they went on to lose to Adelaide in a really, really close game. Only lost by 10 points to Adelaide, and in that semi-final. So, look, they've been through a bit of a period of transition with coaches in particular, and certainly game style, from what I can see. Obviously, Ross Lyon's there now, who I think is one of the great coaches in the AFL at the minute. So
smart. Just knows exactly what he wants to do and puts it to plan. And I think when he first got there, you could almost see that it was going to take a bit of time for things to click. And then at the end of the year, the motor just got going, and Fremantle were a hard machine to stop, and it so proved. And it took for Adelaide to beat them just. Well, in that semi-final.
That's right, and as you said, it did take them time to do, and not only that, now they've had another pre-season to work on it as well, which is enough time, I think, to implement Ross's style. So it's really interesting to see how they're going to improve on last year, and I think they will. And but let's have a look at the list changes they've had.
Just to the ins straight away. Daniel Pearce they've picked up from Port Adelaide, which is a perfect pickup for mine.
Oh, yeah.
And Lee Spur and Clancy Pearce promoted off the rookie list as well.
Well, he played games last year and he was really, really good. But look at the outs, the most important ones there. Greg Borton, as we spoke about earlier, went to the Suns. And Tony Grover's retired, which is a shame. And Jay Van Velo's been delisted.
Which is pretty harsh for mine, I think.
I tend to agree. I guess all this turnover that happened.
It has to happen, yeah.
Yeah, but another couple there. Obviously, Jesse Crichton delisted and picked up again. In the pre-season. So that's one to look out for there. But also Josh Simpson with pick 17, a pretty good pickup. And also Tanner Smith, who has really big raps on him. They picked him up with pick 36 as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, from all reports coming from the West, they're really excited about those two young guys that picked up first. So it'll be really interesting to track their development this year.
So they should be. And we look now at some of the footage of these guys running through their pre-season paces at training. As we see here, doing a bit of bump bag work, bit of ball work. These skills important, obviously.
Oh, they're critical, obviously, and I think.
And where do you? Sorry to interrupt, but where do you weigh that up? Skills versus structure.
Oh, they're both equally important. I mean, and that's one thing Fremantle have got to be a bit better with for mine. Just their using of the football and get it into the hands of guys more effectively that can use it. Stephen Hill's a big one for me, and Daniel Pearce, the new recruit. Those guys streaming towards the 50-metre arc and delivering to forwards coming at them is going to be critical to them improving this year.
Well, whether they hit their targets or they don't could be the difference in a lot of games this year. So,
of course.
Yeah, I think the forward line coaches down at Fremantle are going to have a lot to do, and if they can create some space for the forwards to lead into, and then Pearce and Hill and those type of guys can put it out in front of them, then they'll be a good show.
Oh, look, I think they're in a great spot this year, Joey, to do a lot of damage. I think their list is in the best shape it's ever been in. They got Pavlich at the twilight of his career, but still playing extremely well.
Yep.
Won't have him forever though, so they've got to make their move now.
Well, I actually think. I know he was ineligible, but Matthew Pavlich for mine was almost the best player in the league last year. I would have had him as my Brownlow medalist.
Well, he won them the elimination final against Geelong.
Yes.
With that first half. He was outstanding and ripped Tom Lonergan to shreds. But look, he's a champ. It's going to be really interesting to see how he goes after the surgery he's had in the off-season.
It is.
Of course, a late start, which is never ideal.
No, never ideal. And speaking of surgeries, not so much, but Aaron Sandilands, and his injury woes, and they just continue. He's a big lump. How do you see them managing him this year?
Well, look, it's the big issue, isn't it? If Fremantle are going to be a chance to get where they want to be, they're going to have Aaron Sandilands on the park. And if you're a basketball fan, it really reminds me of the situation with Yao Ming at the Houston Rockets a few years ago, where he's a big, tall lad, and by the end, he just broke down completely broke down. And Sandy's, hope not, but he's heading in the same way.
Well, I mean, the game of AFL is so demanding, even for guys with peak physical condition, ideal body type, that sort of 6-foot guy. Even the little guys have trouble with their bodies, with the rigours of AFL football. So a big giant in Aaron Sandilands, one can only imagine what his stress it puts on his body. But obviously with his club foot or turf toe or whatever he's got over there.
Or what we prefer to probably be something along the lines of a fractured toe.
Well, that's
exactly. Yeah. Well, look, I think the key is they've just got to manage him better.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't play him in the games that you don't need him. Okay. The most important time for you to have Aaron Sandilands, if you're a Fremantle fan, is in finals.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't need him against Gold Coast. No disrespect, but you don't need him against Gold Coast, GWS, Melbourne, these kind of guys, especially when the games are in Perth.
Yep, exactly.
So they've just got to be smarter in the way they use him.
Well, how do you see their other ruck stocks? Like you got a Griffin, a Clark, this sort of thing.
Well, I think Griffin was fantastic last year when he came in.
Yeah,
I thought he was really good, and Zach Clark developed further as well. So I mean, they have got options if Sandy does go down, but I mean, Sandilands gives, even though a lot of his taps do get sharked, he's so critical to their chances.
Oh, absolutely. If you can get first use of the ball, of course it sets you on the right track, doesn't it? So, really, really important. I suppose, Freo have been thereabouts now. They're building, they're bubbling along nicely now. They've got Ross Lyon, they've got the coach they 100% want after what they did to Harvey over there. So, they got their list in a nice little shape. They're not going to have Pavlich and Sandilands forever.
Yeah.
Do you think that they really need to improve and kick on and push towards a premiership now, or it's bust for them?
Well, yeah, I did mention it before in the sense that they won't have Pavlich forever, and you're right.
Yeah.
You're right in the sense of Sandy as well. For me, this is the best group they've ever assembled down there, and this is your best chance, Fremantle Football Club, of having a good crack at it.
Well, the time is now, and let's have a look at that list that we speak of.
So yeah, from our 22 here, Joey, we're really happy with it. Their full back line, Duffield, Zachy Dawson, who gets so much
criticism, unwarranted criticism.
Yeah,
I think.
And Ibbotson across the back line there. It's a pretty good line.
Formidable, and under Ross Lyon's tutelage, they can really hold out teams from making big scores against them, and that includes Johnson, McFarlane and Mzungu.
Yeah, well, look, Michael Johnson's been great for them over a number of years, and Tendai Mzungu as well has been great after they've picked him up as a mature recruit as well. But it's Luke McFarlane there. Joey, who would have thought after he left Hawthorn all those years ago that he's developed into what he has now?
I think Luke McFarlane is still underrated. He's such a great defender, and he just doesn't get the plaudits that he really, truly deserves. It's not just a recent thing that he's come good or anything like that either. He's been great for a number of years now. And what would Freo do without him?
Well, they'd struggle, for one.
Yeah.
Obviously. You've just said it perfectly. He is the ultimate professional. He's just a class act, and look, Freo, salvage him while you still got him, because I'm sure all of you Freo fans out there love him to death.
Oh, enjoy him. And Monday in the guts there, but the two for mine, Daniel Pearce and Stephen Hill flying down the wing.
Roadrunner.
Look out.
Yeah, look out. So much open space there. I think Daniel Pearce, watch out for him this year. I think he's going to have a cracking year. It's a good line.
Oh, absolutely it is. And we move on to the half-forward flank. Crowley, who'll probably push up and tag. Pavlich and De Boer as well.
Yeah, Crowley and De Boer really, really dour sort of players. They just get in there, get their knees and hands dirty, which is just great. It's what you need on a team. And Pavlich is a superstar, but we've spoken about him a bit already.
And Clark and main at full forward and little Mighty Mouse, Valentine in
Mighty
the
Mouse, yeah. Not many opposition fans like Mighty Mouse, but me not being associated with Fremantle, I absolutely love him. He's exactly what you want out of a forward pocket. Maney keeps improving, and Zach Clark as well just gives him a different option.
Sure does. Sanders, we touched on, Fife and Barlow in the midfield.
Yeah, Fifey, class act, and Barlow coming back from that broken leg as well. He's going to get back to that first year level for mine this year.
Yeah, me too. Clancy Pearce, who had a really exceptional year last year as well on the bench there. Walters and Subin and our sub there, Mellington. Yeah, but we move on to Neil, Folkes and Griffin on the emergencies. Neil, a bit unlucky there.
Look, a bit unlucky. He's been training the house down this off-season, pre-season, whatever you like to say. But look, a lot of Freo fans will probably be angry he's not in there. But don't worry, I'm sure he'll play plenty of games this year. And just back up to Michael Walters there. Came back into the side last year and was fantastic as well.
He sure was, yeah.
So look out for him. And Fawkes and Griffin rounding out the emergencies there.
I'm sure Griffin will play a lot of games as well.
Yeah, to look after Sandilands for sure.
So that's the 22. As you said, probably the best list they've assembled in some time. Certainly the most formidable on paper, I think. A guy we just skimmed over a little bit there, Nat Fife. Obviously injury troubled last year, and I think he's the type of guy who can, if he puts a full season together on the park, he'll be All-Australian for mine.
Well, he was an absolute lock for mine.
Sure was.
Until he went down. He's just a class act, and look out for him this year. I think he's going to be absolutely outstanding, and I reckon he'll make the All-Australian team this year.
Yeah, I suppose it's not that much of a bold statement to make All-Australian. It's a pretty commonly held view, but I guess my main point is people rate him, but seriously, this guy is legit. He is a serious talent. And I think he's the next wave of well, we had our generation of your Ablets and your Judds and these type of guys. I think Nat Fyfe is the next wave. I think he's on that level for the next group of elite
He's
superstars.
at the crest, isn't he?
Oh, he sure is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, really exciting for Free to look forward to. And, I think probably by the end of the year they'll be pushing around the top 4, probably 5, 6.
Yeah, well, that's where I've got them as well. I mean, look, a lot of factors come into play during a season, so they could easily get into the top 4 for mine.
Yeah,
but I've got them down, 5, 6, 7, somewhere in there at the minute. Look, I really, really like the way their list is, and if they can finish 5th or 6th and get a home final,
look out.
Yeah, then look out. I mean, anything's possible, as we saw last year.
And that's a pretty nice note to finish on, I think. That rounds us out and brings us to the end of our show for another week.
Well, another week down, Joe. 2 weeks in now, and we're starting to... Well, it's starting to go good, isn't it? We're getting closer and closer to the real stuff, which is what everyone's waiting for.
Can't wait for that. And each team supporters are just, looking over their list at this time of year and, looking forward to the fixture and that type of thing and seeing what they can do. But nothing beats the thrust of actually playing the game, does it?
Oh, exactly. And I mean, I think all of Australia's looking forward to it, to be back, to be honest. And look, it'll be great. But I mean, for us here at BST Weekly, it doesn't stop. I mean, next week, who's on for us next week, Joey?
Well, we've got another 5 teams next week, another big show. We're going to start off with West Coast. We continue over West, continue on from Freo. We're going to have a look at where West Coast can go next year. Obviously, a bit of an injury to Nick Nat, which we'll go into detail about. Then we'll move on to St. Kilda, see where they're at, where Scotty Waters and what he can do with those guys there.
Yeah.
Port Adelaide, and obviously been a rough couple of years for Port. And
Ken Hinkley on board now. I love that acquisition, and look, I can't wait to dissect a bit of Port Adelaide next week.
Oh, he's such a great coach, but we'll get into that again next week. Melbourne as well. They've had a few pickups and this type of thing. So it'd be interesting to see, how they fare next year. And the Premiers, Sydney.
Yeah, the Premiers, Sydney. I mean, look, it's going to be a packed show next week, guys, just like it has been this week. But look, that does draw us to a close,
unfortunately,
as we said. But I mean, on behalf of me, Tim Blacker, and Joey Kane here, thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget, give us a plug. Tell all your mates about us. We really are dedicated to getting a show out there for the people, for the opinions of everyone. So back us in. But thanks again for today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And Joey,
don't forget, BST Weekly.